If you're fighting for a better world, remember, it does never start with your ego, nor does it start with your own well-being only. Many people nowadays so-called strive for a better world. They fight desperately for a better world, but unfortunately they end up being rotten by their own insecurities and emotions. A better world never starts with you. It starts with behavior. When you show people a better way, that is a step towards a better society. Most people want a better world, but they only see a better world through their own prism, through their own limitations. And that will always impose change upon others. When you live just to change others, you're nothing else than a narcissist who wants to do the same thing that, the ones who so-called believe that they rule the world want for you. They also want to change people based on their own needs. That is what I call a so-called freedom fighter. One doesn't have to be a freedom fighter, because the point is, freedoms have always existed. You don't necessarily need to fight for them, unless someone truly wants you to never acknowledge those. When you never acknowledge your freedoms, that's when you have a problem, and you have to fight for those. But ultimately, what is yours as a birth gift or a birthright, that is never something to be contested. A better world always begins within, or begins with you, it says, but you are not necessarily the core of a better world. A better world begins with you, but only in the sense that you make peace with who you are. You make peace with your past. You make peace with things around you, and people around you, environments around you. People say you have reached success when you have reached that level in which your environment is actually supporting you instead of fighting against you. A better world is when you teach people things like that. Is when you teach people to become introspective instead of constantly being distracted by anomalies and whatever the technology can show. The only power of technology is simple to pinpoint. The mind can show you anything, and it can fool you that it is real. That is the only superpower of the mind, especially if you don't know how to use it, because the mind has far more superpowers. But you have to understand its subterfuges to understand those other greater powers. When you are always tangled in the subterfuges and the thousands of layers of the mind, well, that is the only power you will be suffering from. Whatever the mind will show you, you will not be capable to easily distinguish between imagination and reality. It has such a power to show you anything, and you will believe it is real, especially if you are simple-minded. So a better world doesn't mean fighting for something. When you fight for something, that is competition. That is what racism is. Racism doesn't concern the race of people. Racism means being in a stupid race against other people, because you have been taught separation. Then when you have people fighting against others because they believe their creed is better, their religion is better, their skin color is better, that is when you have a war. And you always need two sides, at least two sides, to have a war. When you teach people there is no such thing as sides, when you teach people there is no such thing as countries, that is when you start dispelling the idea of separation. And when you do that, well, remember there was a song by John Lennon, Imagine There's No Countries. Because of that verse, the song got banned. If something gets banned, there is fear behind that reason. There is always fear. That song definitely scared some people, because there are great forces in this world that don't want you to wake up to your full potential. That's why Neo and, The Matrix, they are more or less a documentary, not just a simple-minded movie, not just a movie for, simpletons. It's not just a simple movie, right? And, well, ultimately, the point is, a better world starts with people waking up to their full potential. Because when you accept distractions, it means looking outside of you. It means disempowerment. If you're disempowered, you cannot feel good. You cannot lead others through example. So a better world does never start with your ego. We've seen throughout all our history what has stemmed out of people's egos. When you have sides, well, there will always be war. Creating sides, at least two sides, is always one step further from war. And never forget, imagine there's no countries. This verse got banned. It definitely scared some people. That which scares those people who believe they run the world is unity. Because united we stand, right? Divided we fall. They are afraid of a world of love. Because, unity creates a world they cannot control. All this being said, you are appreciated. Take care. Ferinjan Board signing out.